The series is obviously very intense and dark, but there is also this very like humanizing side to Larry that we see while he's in prison with Taryn. And I was wondering, did you guys see that? And did you guys have a more sympathetic view of him once, you saw the episodes?
I think what's incredible about Dennis's script is that it's a psychological thriller, and it's deeply human. I think he humanizes people that clearly can't, we couldn't imagine in our day-to-day lives, these people having a heart or a backstory or a soul. And Larry's character is suspected of committing the unthinkable, and yet you see this character in a multi-dimensional way. And I think that's what's so compelling about our stories, that all the characters introduce themselves in a certain way, and then you see many different parts of their personality. And you see for my character, for example, Lauren McCulley, the way she is with her partner, essentially Miller, is a certain way, and the way she is with Jimmy Keene is another way. The way she is with Beaumont is another way. You see different parts of these characters, and it makes you understand them a little bit deeper. And Larry Hall is no exception here. As impossible as it is to see this potential killer as a human being, somehow we are able to humanize this person, and yet he's, as I said, suspected of committing the unthinkable, unforgivable, most heinous, violent acts.
Yeah, it's a hell of a performance by Paul. Disarming, and like you say, human in a way that makes it what's already quite scarier.
Mm-hmm.
We had a table read, and I was dreading like 6 hours of a table read on your computer screen. It sounded quite daunting to me before we ever started this, and it was fantastic. I mean, it really came to life. And just hearing Paul's kind of exploration, I was like, oh, we have ourselves a monster.
Well, and I was curious because you guys have a bit of blinders in a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost can't let yourself question because you want these girls to have justice.
Right.
How did that influence, your portrayal?
I think, it's interesting. Miller's introduced in this show at his daughter's football game, as a dad. And I felt like, these girls who are showing up missing, do have kind of a personal element to him in that way. In addition to that, he was Larry Miller was his name. We call him Brian Miller. He was a Vietnam vet who dismantled bombs. I don't know a lot about that world other than you need to know what the hell you're doing. And it's very specific. It's very task oriented. This is the last guy you would want on your tail if you were someone nefarious. So I loved so much how, the people around Larry were trying to cover for him, and Brian was unwavered by that. And I loved the relationship that Seppi and I have, this lived-in detective relationship, and trying to make that real and have it not feel like the male-female detective story that we've all seen, ad nauseum, and make it feel real and honest. And that was a big part of this job.
Well, Sapita, I feel like I noticed, it's set in the 90s, and I'm not saying that women didn't have rights back then, but obviously they had to work harder to be taken seriously. And so, I was curious how you played out, also that dynamic even the scenes with Taryn, those were great.
Absolutely. I mean, what's beautiful about this story is that it takes place over 10 years. And so you do see every character go through some sort of transformation. Just in real life, women have only been able to be part of the FBI for 51 years. So just in 1971, they were rejected from the FBI. So it's fairly recent, their involvement. And I read so many testimonials, spoke to so many different agents, in my research process, discovered so many stories stories of women who are, as with many other career places, they were discriminated against. They were bullied, and they were kind of their male counterparts were trying to push them down. And Lauren is no exception here. You mentioned the time, the 90s. It was even worse then. I'm not saying that it's gotten much better now, but it was definitely a lot worse then. And so anything Lauren does, she has to do 100 times better than her male counterparts. And so you see her as more of in the early stages of her work on this case, you see her with sort of her natural curls, her very minimal makeup, her sort of like cherubic spirit. And then later you see her with, much more presentable. She's straightened her hair. That was very important for any person of color to sort of blend in a little bit more. She's wearing a little bit of makeup, not too much so that she's not taken seriously, but just enough so that she is taken seriously. I mean, all of these things are intentional, that we decided on creatively. And just in the work itself, she is the connective tissue that sort of binds all of these story elements and these characters together. And like you said, this is a male-dominated world.
And you guys obviously did your research. Was there anything that like didn't make the show that would have, fascinated you even?
I mean, I think what Dennis sprinkles in a good amount of what we don't see on other shows, which is casework, which is the sort of tedious nature of what it means to be a law enforcement agent. And those are some of the scenes actually that I love with Miller and Macaulay, where we're just kind of doing the grunt work that often doesn't make the cut in most FBI or police investigations represented on screen. And I think that is probably takes up like 80% of their time, really. All of the other action is secondary.
Yeah, the script really didn't change. As Sebi's pointed out, I mean, it's, the script that we made really, it was a rock for 9 months. And, usually that's unusual. Things do change creatively and stuff. But, we were presented with a tapestry of a hell of a story to begin with. And that didn't change much.